Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is Sheikh Sufi Ba. SheikhSufi@gmail.com. CheikSufi@gmail.com. Opening prayer for the greatest shaman that I know in the West, Brother Ankh, Rising Sun. A'udhu billahi bismillahi inna waliyullahu. A'udhu billahi bismillahi inna waliyullahu. A'udhu billahi bismillahi inna waliyullahu. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin al-Fatihi lima ulika wal-Khatimi lima sabaka ناصر الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره ومقداره العظيم.
Blessed love, this is Jah Lion King, you know. Priest of an order of Melchizedek. Yeah, man, priest Jah Lion King of an order of Melchizedek. Give thanks to life, give thanks to health and strength, you know. Give thanks to positiveness, give thanks to consciousness, give thanks to righteousness, give thanks to love. Give thanks to highly flattered Jah, Archwr, you know. Universal love, you know, one and all, you know. And give thanks to all good things and all abundance and all blessing and then approaching a new year, you know, praying for everyone, you know, to be more conscious, more righteous, more loving, more caring, more sympathetic, loving each other, you know, and caring for each other, you know, because God is love and love is God, you know, so let us all love, you know. And remember, love is the key that opens all doors, no matter what race or nation. Love is the key that opens the door for only Mount Sinai. And whosoever enter in, ever live the life shall have, you know. So love is the key, you know. So peace and love to the world, you know, and blessing and prosperity and joy and happiness and goodness for the 2024 coming from Andrew Priest Jah Lion King. And if you want to contact I, 347-444-4460. Give thanks to life. Jah, Rastafari, Holy Money.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'een. Ihdina siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladina an'amta alayhim. Ghayr maghdubi alayhim. Wala dwalleen. Alhamdulillah. Dr. Sanada Kamara, co-founder of Temple Mother Earth, sending love, peace, and abundance prayer to everyone around the world.
Beloved mighty omnipresent, great hosts of sitting and ascended masters, great angelic hosts, great cosmic beings who govern the system of worlds and the seven mighty worlds. Lord, we call upon your grace to heal the earth of the actions of the sinister forces. Their plan is to eliminate the population in the most horrible and murderous ways. They have already poisoned our food with things we can't even pronounce. They poison the water with fluoride. They poison the air with chemtrails. They have poisoned the medicine with side effects that will kill you if you take it. And they have poisoned the technology against mankind. They have weaponized all these things against mankind. We call upon your grace to free us from the sinister forces whose diabolical plan is to make this world the most hellish place. America, which was the light of the world, that was brought to the world, established in this world to make every human being here ascendant, and then to have that spread throughout the world. Lord, we ask you to incarnate in this very planet. Incarnate in mass, incarnate with sitters and ascended masters, with divine beings of every type to bring in revolutions of meditation, revolution of mantra repetition, revolution of chanting, revolution of spreading love and light, revolutions of knowledge. Lord, we call upon you to empower us with our divine selves, so that we can rid the world of these very sinister forces whose aim is to do nothing but create this place to be a Sodom and Gomorrah. We already know that Earth is the most wicked planet in the universe. Let us turn it to be the light of the world, so that it is the greatest planet in the universe, so that we excel even what is happening in the great central sun. As a matter of fact, Lord, we ask all the beings from the great central sun to incarnate on the earth, to incarnate on the earth, to incarnate on the earth within us, so that we could do the work that I'm begging for now. Oh Lord, I ask this in the name of Swami Muktananda Paramahansa, Bhagavan Nityananda, Guru Mahachit Lasananda, beloved Saint Germain, Lord Jesus the Christ, Lord Buddha, Allah, and the great Sunak Kumar. Almighty I am, Almighty I am, Almighty I am.
Greetings, loved ones. My prayer for you for 2024 is to be in a vibrational receiving match. A vibrational receiving match for happiness, for giving, for gratitude, for wisdom, for discernment, with abundance of blessings, for your soul tribe, for your soulmate, for your open-mindedness, for your spiritual growth, for divine love, and for a healthy, emotional, physical, spiritual body. I wish you all these things and pray that you receive all these things in the year 2024. I'm speaking all languages. Ashe, Amin, and Namaste. You can reach me at Instagram, Sequoia_spirit, that is SEQUOYA. Again, I wish you all these blessings and so much more in the year of 2024. Thank you.
Amor, 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 amor. El mensaje es el amor. Ama a tu hermano como a ti mismo. Eso es amor. Amor, 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 amor. El mensaje es el amor. Ama a tu hermana como a ti misma. Eso es amor. Grandes fuerzas de la paz crezcan siempre, siempre más. Que reine la paz y acaben las fronteras. Todos somos uno. Aho.
Hi family, my name is Oswald Pomakisa and my wife.
Joanne Pomakisa, hi.
Together we serve medicine of the grandfather, Wachuma. Our phone number is 201-981-4545. Giving thanks to Brother Hank for the opportunity to send this message. The message of honesty, and our body is very intelligent. It has the ability to bring to the light whatever we're hiding by making us sick, so that nothing can really stay hidden. Beautiful way to move all those things that we carry from the past. To be honest.
Aboru aboye aboshishe alafia ubuntu assalamu alaikum assalamu alongo sanda om namah shivaya. I give you praise in the name shalom, whatever your wonderful beliefs and your system of beliefs is, we give praise. But we give praise to the Olodumare, the Olorum, the Somole, the Agbamole, Efunfuni, Legi, Kuku, Tekunani, Samujuano, what their room, Mojuba, Mudemo, Male, Mafon, Matibo, Joe. We give praise to the God who is the owner of today, the owner of yesterday, and the owner of all days to come. He to whom the Rumole and Agbamole exist to know his laws and command, originating creator, all things discovered and yet to be discovered. We give praise to our grand, powerful ancestors, those wise ones who come, give us directions, light, love, and help us to be able to receive the benefit in our life. We ask that you be able to embrace the great divinity of Rumila, the one who is the witness of creation, second only to all of Damari, the owner of medicine, more powerful than medicine, the immense orbit that fought the day of death. He to who is the perfect in the house of wisdom. He is able to heal and to regenerate you creatures of ill luck and bring them perfectly back into homeostasis, understanding, light, and love, and helping you to embrace the love of the universe as we give praise to all the creatures of the universe, everything that moves and reverberates, and the vibration that moves in your life. Allow you to find goodness, allow you to find health and vitality, strength to move forward for the accomplishment of all the goals that you have set for you and your family. My name is Babalao Oluwole Abiyomi Fakunle Adetuti Ronkolo de Manyansa. My nickname is Babalao of Harlem. We send greetings to you today. As you at www.ifakunle.com, you can reach me and we will talk. Peace.
Putting out a call to the warrior in you, to the healer in you, the king, the queen, the magician, the lover in you. Every single day, we are called to walk in our purpose. Answer the call. Lay down your burden and anything that holds you back and take your rightful place. The battle is everywhere. It's right in your face. Let's go.
Welcome to Magnets, Crystals, and Pyramids. Success is your destiny. Love, wisdom, power. Remember always who you are. Yes, yes, I am. Love, wisdom, power. Yes, yes, I am. Love, yes, power. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Love, wisdom, power. Yes, yes, I am. Wisdom, power. Master. Yes, I am. Yes, love, wisdom, power. Yes, I am. Say to yourself. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Master. I am. Yes. All right, greetings and welcome, family, to a special edition of Diana Pharr's monthly presentation. Good to see you, Diana, and all your beautiful angels. With all the listening audience, I want you to put in the comments what part of the world you're listening from so that we can have a panoramic overview of the planetary experience. So I'm going to go backstage. Diana, you have the show. So proceed forward. Let me say, we're still waiting on your featured guest. She hasn't shown up yet, I don't think. So I'm going to throw this out here. I want y'all to have ancient future DNA activation memory with this small clip. Okay.
I love the opening, Rising Sun.
Oh, we're not done, Diana. We're still
Well,
waiting on
please,
your guest. And
well,
I got
please,
one more candy goodie eyeball for
well,
you.
please continue.
And with that being said, I'm going backstage, Diana. Talk to us.
Yes, I'm wondering if we should give Kwayera a call and see if she's having technical difficulty.
Okay.
Would you like to do that, Kayama? Um, I love that photograph. Hello, Miss Adjoa. How are you?
Greetings. I'm
Um,
well. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Good.
I'm very, 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 very good.
Good.
For the audience, I think we're going to move forward. This evening, this evening's topic for the message is womanness. And it's a continuation of a conversation that started in December. I was not here in January with King Simon. And it was a very nuanced conversation regarding how Black men interact with each other with affection and empathy and love, and that even though that goes on in plain sight, it's not a part of the narrative. It's not represented in the media culture in which we now live. So this evening, we're going to talk about womanness, and I wanted to begin with giving some foundational understanding of this topic that we're working with. And I'm kind of stalling because for continuity, I would like for Kwayera to be here and get a sense of where we've been and where we are in this moment and where we're going. So I'll do some more housekeeping. I'm seeing two images of women, and one in the chat room came up. It was like, thank you, brother. I don't think either one of us look like a brother. Well, anyway, I'm being silly. So in March, Dr. George Love is going to be the featured guest, and he's an acupuncturist. He's out in Florida, and he's going to talk about the anatomical aspect of Jing energy, your essence, your kidney energy, your water element, which is very closely associated with your sexual energy, and how that affects everything, your immune system, longevity, how well you age, the expression of in the relationship you have with your ancestral energy. That is that's all related to your genes. So he'll be on. In April, Dr. James Smalls and Dr. Akila Wright will be on with us on the message, and they'll be talking about something very subtle, and that has to do with the dynamic in academia. And it shows up in business environments also. Between what started out, the history of it was perhaps the slave that worked in the field and the slave that worked in the house, and how that personal dynamic continues to play itself out in our lives as we live today, that they impact us. And when it shows up in academia, how it can affect the trajectory of a student, that is trying to navigate through their academic career. Kayama, did you have any success?
Yeah, she said that she's in.
Rising Sun. I think Kwayera may be it. Rising Sun.
Diana, nobody's in this queue. So she has to tell her if she's in, tell her go out and come back again because nobody's there.
She may be, and this was the same thing that happened with Queen. She may have opened up the audience link rather than the studio link.
Okay, I will
Because
I will be right back.
Alrighty. So so moving right along. Let's see what other I can talk about group. Group is about to close, not permanently, but for the duration of 2024. Alchemy Group that is a monthly group dedicated to the practice of alchemy. People that have expressed interest in the past. This coming group in March would be the last opportunity to come in, at least until 2025. Next year, we'll reassess and see where we are as to whether or not other people can come in. We're in a place where we're really focusing on opening up other pathways and resolving particularly the very basic things that people need to sustain their life and their existence, their financial security, and their relationships. And those two things are closely related. The planetary energy that rules over finances also rules over relationships. Venus rules both Taurus and Libra. And that's something along the line of the intro that I wanted to, that I am going to include this evening in the message part. What else? So people that are interested in participating in Alchemy Group, we meet once a month on the first Sunday of the month. The next group is March 3rd. And just to be on my mailing list in general, you can email me at D as in David, P as in Peter, H as in Harry, A as in Apple, R is in Run, 8@AOL.com. The email choice of old people, AOL. Yeah, that's right. Card carrying. Got my AARP card in my wallet. Card carrying. And people can also contact me. I began this year to do one-on-one sessions again, so people that are interested in that session, meeting with me one-on-one, can also contact me there and put session in the subject line of the email.
Diana,
Yes.
I'd like to say something about group, if I may.
Please do. I love your pyramid earrings.
Thank you. I, as is Kayama here on the call, am a part of group. And for me, group was and is a life changer, because in group, as it sounds, we are aligning in togetherness. And one of the things that Diana says very often is what we need most, what we need now most is each other. And that's what we have in group. And it carries us. The messages carry us. The alignments carry us. The repeated messages carry us, and it has a way of filling in the gaps of time, while we're not meeting, and it's a group opportunity for spirit to come in even when we're not in group. And so I just wanted to share that about group, because
Yeah, I think you have to be in group to understand that.
I was just about to say, I'm a groupie.
It's interesting when you start talking about group outside of group. It's not easy. It's not an easy thing to explain. We do a practice that is the translation of the principles alchemical into how we function on a daily basis, that restores the magic of the individual, the magical experience of life that's actually very very inherent and very natural and second nature to the human experience. So moving as we progress into 2024, we're moving from the place where we were really operating as a group that gathered together once a month to more having relationships outside of that context, specifically for business development purposes. Now that we've entered into a historical epoch where people are being positioned to share with the world what they've cultivated over a lifetime, that many people need support and help with financial management, with the culturalization of interacting with and communicating with different communities nationally and internationally, wherever their work is meant to take them. And that's very concentrated work, so it requires our being more connected in how we work together because of the support that's needed. So it's that reason that the group will be closing after March 3rd. So so if people want information on that, please contact me. And this is okay. Hi, Kayama. How we doing? You had some success.
Hopefully she'll be there. She goes. Yeah, I've been here.
My. Were you having technical difficulty?
Well, not exactly.
Okay, in that case, I don't want to know.
Well, on my end, let's say that it's maybe some intervention in the universe, but
Yeah.
I was sitting here just waiting.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
A little.
Yeah. So such things happen.
Of
That's
course.
one of the nice things about podcasts and YouTube. They're intimate. So overview. We've been talking about sort of kind of relationships, a dialogue on Messenger. I come into this platform once a month, and Kwayera, and I wasn't here in January. In December, King Simon was here. And I really wanted you to get a sense of the continuity. So the conversation we're having this evening, and we talked about the connectivity of men and the intimacy and the brotherhood that men share amongst themselves. It's not necessarily a part of the narrative. It's not, that we don't see it really expressed in media. So I wanted a balance. I wanted a conversation. I wanted to have a conversation on womanness. And for the audience, those of you that are that don't know Kwayera Archwr, she's an extremely accomplished woman. So we're going to have that conversation in a minute. But before that, I wanted to start we start off this session with the message. What is the message? And I do that part. So what we'll be doing is the message, and then Kwayera, the rest of the evening is for you to share your experience. You have a wealth of information and background. Some of the women from Alchemy Group are with me this evening. I want to introduce them also when I bring you on. But first, we're going to do the message, and then we'll do housekeeping. I see Pharr circulating the chat. I do not see Kwayera Archwr's contact information. So if Rising Sun, if we can make that happen. So when we begin the conversation with her.
Yeah, Diana, text me in the private chat her details. I'll copy and paste. How you doing, Kwayera? Good seeing you.
Okay, everybody. So
all right, so you see it in the it's underneath comments, banner, brand, and then it says private chat. In private chat, send me all her details because I don't remember seeing them. So if you put it there, I'll copy and paste. I'm out.
Are you asking me to put it there? That's a joke, right? Surely you jest. Well, we'll handle that. We will work that out. I don't think Archwr has that information. Kayama, if you do, if you could give us a hand. And thank you so much, Kayama, for your patience. I'm calling for you a lot this evening. Everyone, this is Kayama Brown. Kayama does so many things. I don't know how to introduce her. She's a healer. She does Reiki. She travels all over the place. Archwr is spends time between Florida and Ghana. Kwayera is a global, and keeping with the name of her consultancy firm, she is most definitely a citizen of the globe. But let's get the message. In keeping, the message is developing a tradition where I really like to share tools that people can apply relevant to the narrative, whatever it is we're talking about. Something that I know that if you do, it will affect change in the most immediate sense. And as we talk about relationship, we started with King Simon. Kwayera's with us this evening. Next month, George Love is going to come in and talk about, again, the sexuality, Jing essence, ancestral energy, and how that energy plays in our overall well-being, aging, longevity, all of that. What I wanted to, so first I'm going to talk about a little alchemy and magic, and then we're really going to ground that conversation and talking about a conversation that Kwayera and I have been having in the spirit realm that I don't even know, that it's the conversation, and it doesn't have words. It's a wordless conversation. I really want the audience to get this. This is a wordless conversation that takes place amongst women who know. Do you? And I don't you know exactly what I'm talking about? In plain sight amongst women who know. So let me give some the tool out the way. People should write down the name of Tim Fletcher. He has a YouTube channel, and you could reference his channel to look further into the subject of regulation and correcting a dysregulated nervous system. Because if we're talking about relationship, we really need a context. Relationships are biochemical events, and we know this. Because when you're in the presence of someone, we talk in terms of whether or not we have chemistry with that person. Well, that's not just nuance. That's a very literal thing. Whether or not, in science, it's called resonance. Whether or not you resonate with someone, or whether or not you are dissonant with them. And healing, the experience that we're having with others when we interact with them is somatic. Somatic talks about the body experience separate from the mind and emotions. And why is that the case? Because the way we operate as human beings, when we come into the presence of another, our body responds first, before, and then the limbic brain, and then the cortex, and then the thinking. But first, we feel it in our bodies. We feel it in our chemistry. And right now, there is, and there are no stats on this, so I can't give the numbers, but a large portion of the population has a dysregulated nervous system. And that starts very, very early in life. It starts at the point of conception, when we're in our mother's womb, and her heartbeat, her heart rate variability resonates in the womb, in the water of the womb, in the fluid that we're in. And that rhythm gives us a sense of reality before we're even born. And many people are under a great deal of stress during their pregnancies. So infants are supposed to get their sense of well-being from their mother's rhythm, from the heartbeat of the rhythm, from the flow that starts deep within nature that the mother is connected to, the earth, the family, the community. That we should experience this before we even come into the world. And many of us do not. Many of us are born in hospitals, bright lights, no oxygen. So the issue of having an experience that dysregulates the nervous system is huge. It's epidemic in society. And right now, people use, unfortunately, artificial things like technology, external validation, material acquisition to regulate their emotions. So the most effective thing that one can do right now that will begin to affect you, and what I want the audience, this is the takeaway tool for the messenger this evening. Learn to regulate your emotions. You do that with the breath. If you learn to regulate your emotions, what will happen over time is you'll begin to transition from the reactionary approach to relationships to respond and creativity, which are very different ways to interacting, not just with someone that you would identify as your beloved, but all relationships. Your relationship, I mentioned earlier, relationship with money, and your relationships in general ruled by the same dynamic, Venus. Venus rules Taurus, it also rules Libra. So our relationships, how we interact in general has to do with the regulation of our nervous system. And you don't have to ask if your nervous system is dysregulated. It is to some degree. Because we live in society that dysregulation is almost a requirement to function. We have to work outside in environments that are not in alignment with the circadian rhythm, our relationship with light and dark. Everything in the body is regulated by light and dark. So our society is structured in such a way that we have to interact with dysregulation. The fact that we interact with technology so intensely that right now we're all looking at artificial light and it's dark, it's nighttime, not unless you're on the other side of the world. So if you begin to work on regulating your own nervous system, what will happen is then the magic will begin to occur. You'll begin to become conscious of your vertical consciousness, because the regulation of the nervous system will train you to have stillness rather than thought rumination as your default space, calm, centered within the heart. And when that happens, then the vertical consciousness can come in, rather than a rumination drawing from an emotional event in the past that established itself in your nervous system, rather than you interact in that way. And we can't control that because that's autonomic. The first thing that happens when you interact and you relate to something outside of your environment is that your body responds to it, not your brain and your emotions, not the limbic and the cortex. The body responds without you directing it. Just like right now, your heart is beating, you're breathing, you're going through a myriad of biochemical activities that you're not directing it. So this isn't something we do consciously. And this is at the heart of the alchemy of relationship, more so than whatever context we want to adapt: monogamy, polygamy, being single. There's a very complex dialogue that's happening right now about what is the nature of relationship. But the first thing, if you begin to self-regulate, if you begin to develop calm through the breath as your default state, then your relationship with yourself will shift. And it is through your connection to yourself that you connect to others. There is no other way. So the conversation that that Kwayera and I have been having, sort of like a, you know, I know that you know, and I know you know, that we've never really had that conversation. We've eyeballed each other a couple of times. So I remember when you and Tyone came over to Akila's in Kingston. We were, it's a sense of knowing. But before that, I wanted to say some things about Kwayera in terms of why she is such the perfect woman to have this conversation with. There are many women's. There are many women's. There are many women that are seeking to accomplish things that you have accomplished. Kwayera started off as an artist. She had a career as a dancer. She started a nonprofit organization here in Brooklyn, Ife Tayo, that continues. Ife Tayo was honored during the Obama administration for excellence. She is now the central person as a consultant in Global Ashe. She lives all over the world. She's got it going on. And juxtaposition all of that. So I really want, Archwr and Kayama, if they have some things to ask you along those lines, because there's so much, what I can only describe as nonsense about how we achieve, and I'm sure that you didn't do all of that because you threw up some vision boards and, it's, and I didn't mention, and you were recently awarded Achieve, the station of being achieved. So you are absolutely an accomplished woman. Now notice, I haven't mentioned any of the womanness part of your life. And that's really what I wanted. I want to talk about womanness. And that's the women who know that juxtaposition to what you've done in your professional life. And while you were doing all of that, you were going to school for advanced degrees. So it's a lot, but you also had children, you were married, the emotional relationship with the community and how the community interacts with women that are in leadership positions. That's really very different than how they interact with men. How does the womanness play out when a woman is in a leadership position and she has the responsibility of family? And there's really something that, and after I say that, I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to let you share in terms of womanness, that which you wish to share. And I see we have, and I know that you, even though your focus is organization consulting, I know that you have a lot to offer in terms of womanness. I'm disturbed by the narrative and how hard relationships have become for particularly women in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. And what I meant that the we hear thing is that there is a unspoken or identified sorority of women that simply know how to interact with men. Let me sit up straight.
I know.
And it's so nuanced. It's so nuanced. Men discuss it amongst themselves. The women who know, but it's not an easy thing to communicate. So those are all of the Diana thoughts in terms of why I wanted to have this conversation with you. But you could start anywhere you want to start with. What was it like as a younger woman to start Ife Tayo, being young, married with your all? Anywhere you want to start. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Asante sana, Eshe, Modupwe. Thank you so much. I'm totally, completely honored to be a guest tonight. And I do beg pardon for the late entry, but it was
I
so
understand.
good.
I got the message now that wasn't in your hands.
Right, and so you just flow is kind of what you're talking about. That water.
We just flow. We fill the time.
Yeah, that water energy. So thank you, Diana, and thank you everyone and all of Thank Rising Sun and everyone who's participating to make this moment actually happen. As you were speaking, I was thinking about where to start, and you said start wherever. And there's a very specific moment in my young adulthood when I was touring the world, very independent, exploratory, as a dancer, just living out of a suitcase in theaters and being a professional artist on main stages and doing the work, right? Creating thought-provoking work with Jubilation Dance Company. And I wanted to do an organization in the community. And it is when I met Akila and Fayette that my life changed. And I'll tell you why. I mean, there have been many moments that my life has taken a shift. But when I met these two sisters, I said, you can actually do this community work. You can do this hard work. You can do this big work and actually have a family. It was their reality that let me know, because I was mostly around artists, right? Doing great work, transformative work for Black communities, spiritual enlightenment on stages, doing just amazing stuff. But I didn't have an example or a visual or some kind of point of reference that you can actually be a woman with a family and in community.
Forgive me. I'm laughing at that Jamaica conversation. We're not going to have that in a public forum. We're going to talk about womanness, but we are going to have some limitations.
I remember. So, and they let me know. So first it was just the visual. And then I said, okay, I had a partner who eventually became my husband and had 3 children and ran the business. Had a lot of support from him. I had a husband that was very supportive of me following my dream. I think something that I must mention for younger sisters or all sisters is sometimes my dream was in a very feminine appearing package, right? What society appreciates. So it was like a dance club. It was like, oh, this is a cute little project. You do that because that's very feminine, right? You go and, your man takes care of you and you're very professional and accomplished, but you got a little activity. But the activity continued to grow and grow and grow. And how that impacted my reality over time is pretty, I will use the word diversified, right? Because it kept growing. It wasn't a club anymore. Now it became an international model, and I was taken away more, and there was a lot of spotlight on me, but I still kept my femininity. So I was married for 24 years, right? Which is a pretty long time to in this society, right? I thought
And
I'd be
you look
married forever.
fabulous. I'm telling you, by your physical, you don't even look like you could possibly have this history. You
I'm
know, and
59.
I just want to
Okay, in
interject.
May.
So I want to interject
Wow.
some few things that
Wow.
Miss Archer would show up at when Ife Tayo would have their closing events at Brooklyn
Yeah,
College.
but we were doing, yeah.
And it was a cultural event because we would all come out in our Afrocentric best, and Miss Archer would come out in like Dior.
It wasn't Dior, but it looked
But
like Dior.
it was archetypically it was Dior. So
Right, right, right.
I just want to, and I would be like, girl, but continue
So
because
yes,
this to me is very significant because a part of the power is being able to truly do you and be you, whatever that is. That's part of the
and
power.
I agree with you, Diana. I think that my saving grace, besides going through really hard times, but kept going, I think there's a couple of things on the table, right? It's being your authentic self, standing and sitting in your womanness. And how do you do this really powerful work at the same time and make that all a recipe that creates and generates and exudes with love? And femininity for me is very important. I am a Taurus ruled by Venus. I'm deeply committed and connected to Oshun. I am a water child. So my mother was just an essence of femininity and sensuality and a professional and educated, but she reared me to not be scared of my femininity or my aging or my self-expression. And so I want to pay tribute to Violet, the Violet Archer, my mother, as you wear the color violet on your head. I really want to give thanks because I think it's that example of woman and that unafraid essence of stepping into your womanness with accountability and responsibility. So in doing the rites of passage, we would tell young girls, young adolescents becoming young women, when you step into a room, you can have the power and essence of your femininity, but how do you walk with that? How do you use it? Don't abuse it, and be very clear that you have that. And we would train them in what that is and was. It's not just what's told to us publicly, physically, visually. It's an essence. And so I'll pause there so you could ask me some directed questions because I could go in any direction.
Because this is such a nuanced thing because right now there are things going on that as a younger woman I could have never imagined in terms of the dynamic that I'm witnessing in the relationship arena. I could never imagine the degree of vitriol that I'm seeing between men and women because it just didn't exist in my time. Not that people didn't have issues, they did, but it wasn't this anger of men and women, and that doesn't exist in all milieus and all environments, but just some. But I really wanted you to talk some about your mom and and that example, because to me, and it's interesting, I don't see this like the women in group are not like that at all. I see this more in the popular culture that alchemically, if you seek to be feminine to such an extreme, it becomes masculine, it polarizes. And I do see it within certain that I'm super dupe, I'm female on steroids. And I do all of these things, but it seems like the effort of that is so very strong, that I cook healthy food, I have gemstones, I know these, where when I was a girl, women did as much as much. My mother
Mm-hmm.
worked, went to school, cooked, took care of a family,
Right.
but but it was women, the men supported the women, and the women did not wear who they were on their sleeves in the way that I see
Hmm.
now. That it's a yang expression of the feminine, and I feel like that's being provoked by something. I
Hmm.
feel that there's a message going, that there's a message being sent out to young women right now that no matter what they do, it's not enough. No matter what,
Hmm.
no matter what they do, it's not enough. Um, so they are trying harder and harder and harder. I mean, in some communities, like the example of the BBL and the eyelashes, where women
Ah,
are almost like a caricature of a woman.
right.
You know,
Right.
when you have silicone breasts, a BBL,
Right.
eyelashes, weave, bleached skin,
Right.
I don't know if the nails get any longer. It's such an exaggerated,
It's really sad.
distorted version. And then some of the things I see in the popular culture that we're defending it, that it's art. I would identify it as burlesque.
Hmm. I see a
It's,
word in the chat saying a cartoon. I
yeah,
think
yeah,
it is.
that it's so extreme, but the
Yeah,
underlying energy that I see there is suffering. It's
absolutely.
suffering. It's such a need for validation from the male lens, and you know, share some about what you saw. What
Well,
you saw in terms of the
right.
women that they had a
Yeah.
lot going. I mean, extraordinary.
So, so my mom, she worked, right? She was a doctor. She worked in the hospital. She had fashion shows and raised money for sickle cell anemia. So that was another energy of femininity. She pulled me along, fashion, but she was doing something of service for Black people to raise money. She had that entrepreneurial spirit. She was extremely generous. She was so generous. And that's another thing that helped me to work in community, or that inspired me to work in community, is I came from, no matter what challenges she had, it was an essence of woman that was the generator, the recreator, the one that could create again and again from a perspective of abundance. She didn't raise me from a scarcity mindset. No matter how much anything was tight ever, I didn't grow up with that. She
We
just,
never, girl, yes.
no, it's abundance, right? And so her
And
sisters,
women were
we had,
generous. And what I'm seeing now is women that with all of these skills, and they're generous in spirit, in their hearts, they're generous, but finances are an issue. You know,
what do you mean?
what's that?
What do you mean finances are an
I
issue?
mean that, like you're talking about the generosity.
Yeah.
After my mother passed, something
Hmm.
that I didn't pay any attention to, but when she was alive, she had all of these charities that she gave to,
Right.
that I would get mail from. I grew up
Mm-hmm.
in a generation where there was an archetype of Yemen Yah within families and within the community that was there for others. Very often she was a woman that you could go to for advice or information. But that generosity and that finances. And my family didn't have a lot of money. I remember once I wanted a leather coat in junior high school, and my mother kept playing my birthday until she hit.
I love it. Do
and
what
got me
you
that
have to do.
and got me that coat. But it was this energy, particularly coming from the women that they could generate resources. What I felt as a child growing up was that whatever I needed, my mama some way would be able
And
to do.
I think that's 100%. And a lot of our mothers or grandmothers probably did that. And what our young sisters are not seeing, I really think, because um, there's not this sacred space to bring our young girls up in that is culturally appropriate, right? So people are trying rites of passages, but I think there's a lot of space for a lot more rites of passages to really help young girls and boys really prepare and usher them and support them through life. So girls that came through rites, I'm going to go back to my mom, but girls that came through my hands with rites of passage are probably traveling with me to Africa this summer, or consider that speaking to them every month, or it's not a rites of passage that stops when you become 21. It is joining a village and a community for a lifetime, and I think that's what we're missing. But my mom came home every night and cooked, or came home in between her two jobs because she liked having her extra money, and she would cook dinner, like not like frozen dinner. She would cook a big Caribbean meal, which was a lot, right? Because I did write something called the Superwoman Myth, because she was going.
It was tremendous what these women did, and you mentioned Akila, and Akila is going to be on coming up. She's going to do an interview, her and James Small together, the two of them, about academia, where her mother saved the church that Akila goes to now, that her mother did the work to raise the money to be able to save the building, so there's something, and the schism that I see, that I can think of, and it may not be the truth, but something happened in the 60s when we had cultural revolution that our community seemed like it fragmented.
Mm-hmm.
Where I don't go to my mother's house, she eats pork, where people began to separate from, and this is I'm no way suggesting that this is the entire story. A lot of things, the 60s was a very, very socially complex time, a lot of things that were going on. It has a lot of layers to it. But one of the things I remember is that we lost a sense of eldership, which right now is just about gone. That it's what I sense from people in their 30s and 40s. They want to, I'm your peer, or you don't know, or that, that lost that. You had a thought?
The other thing is about this energy of femininity, right? I really learned again from my mother and women that thing about abundance and love, it's like, even if something happened in love with a partner, you didn't write your men off completely. Like I know you're not talking about that. You were saying that women,
I understand what you mean.
can't do enough, right? But what I also see is, I don't need no man. I can do everything by myself. And so that creates another dynamic as well, that I think we really, as elders.
But I also think that that's another expression of pain.
Absolutely.
Alchemically, anger is pain. Anger resides in the liver, and the mother of the liver is the heart, fire. And when the heart is not operating, when there's low energy in the heart, then the liver, the child of the mother, expresses the heart energy through anger and through. I think that there's a lot that we see, and that goes back to the importance of learning to regulate your nervous system and taking charge over your own emotions, so that calm and centeredness rather than reaction becomes your default place. Because if you're constantly in a triggered fight or flight place, it feels normal to you. And people appear to me to be like this, constantly in a reactionary state, because they're they're yanged out. They're in they're suffering.
I wanted to
Much
keep
more so
going
than
on.
I remember as growing up as a young person, that people were just a lot more laid back. It's a marked difference. I know that that's part of the dialogue that I hear from some portion of the male community, that the women are
Mhm.
highly masculinized right now. But I think that it's like when I see this over sexualized expression of art, I know what it is. It's a longing for validation. It's a longing for connection. I don't think that that's how women feel. Like I don't need a man. I don't think that's an authentic thing. I think that's a reaction.
Well, I want to keep going on that road, Diana, from the expression that I'm seeing, because I work also with organizations, leaders, and women in leadership, right? With these retreats, and a lot of things that comes up is the heart work, and so you hit it on the head. But the thing as we go deeper into the heart is there aren't many opportunities to experience vulnerability, right? And so the hyper masculinity is they're always on, they always have to take care of. And where do you
You
feel
said a
safe to be
mouthful.
vulnerable, right? There is no place. And when you work with vulnerability, so many other things begin to blossom. And it's that breath work that you can even begin to practice and test. You can't even do breath work if you're not willing to become vulnerable, right? And where are the spaces? And so that's what I'm talking about, the sister circles, or and and not the cliche sister circles.
Let
I'm
me interject something. I know that you and Tyoma recently did a thing in Jamaica. Tell me about the retreat work you're doing. This is exactly what I wanted. I wanted a conversation. Kayama and Ajua, if you all want to jump in at any time, just jump on in and swim and answer, because this is exactly, because I am so not a journalist. I am so not a, I have such phenomenal narrative conversations in my life. And it's really that I want to share. So I want to share. We still haven't, there's something we have touched on. It's like a thing with men, how simple they are. And I'm not going to put you on the spot, but
I'm not gonna let you. No, go ahead, sister. Ask me anything you want, and then we could go to Tyoma.
I love what you said about your mama and that you're not afraid of getting old. I'm in my 70s. I
Ashe.
know the people in their 30s and 40s. I'm an old lady, but to a 75-year-old man, I got it going on. All all men want is to be loved, to be
And I
nurtured.
was
If you feed them, if you
that
feed them and work their nervous system,
you,
whatever dragon you ask them to go out and slay, they will go out and slay it for you.
Diana, you said if you love them. I was gonna say if you see them, if you just see them, that's it.
I hear also respect. They more
Yeah.
than anything, they want our respect. What do you think about that?
I think for me, respect is an outcome of seeing, which is, and I'm going to expand seeing, which is listening, right? Hearing them. And that's respect right there. Because if you see me, like what does see mean? Like the Sarabona, I see you and all that you are and all that that is and all that that is, right? And the South African tribe, when they see each other, they put face to face for about 2 minutes for each person. That's the kind of seeing that you're still, you I was going to say shut up, that you listen, because we have a lot to say as women, but it's hard, right? So that you listen and then you respond, and that's respect, right? You don't just listen and that thing people many people in this society do, we pause. Like, because we're excited. Like Diana and I were talking. I was just excited. She's on mute.
It is such a, the one thing that men, and I've mostly worked with women, not intentionally, but it just evolved that way. The number one thing that men, they have a perception that women do not see them, have an idea of who they should be, and want to explain that to them, not realizing what the man is hearing is that you're telling me that I have failed as a man. You're telling me, if you have to tell me how to be a man, then you're telling me that I don't know how to be one. And I see that in the reverse also, that men now want to explain to a woman. And I think a lot of this yanged out expression of the feminine is men explaining to women in a way that makes the woman feel like you're not really a woman, or you're not really enough. And I know I've met some of the most brilliant, accomplished women that are still working very, very hard for validation from someone that they may be married to and had children to. But, because withdrawal of affection is a form of abuse, and that's a whole another dynamic. But in the best of circumstances, the thing that colored culture provided for us was social ways of interacting with each other that were generally accepted that we have lost. I mean, when I was a young woman, booty calls didn't exist. If a man called me up and expected me to deliver my body to him, I would be appalled. For one thing, he would never do that. It wasn't the cultural norm. You could not behave that way. He wouldn't expect me to be, men didn't expect women to give themselves over to them unless they had established themselves with that woman in a particular way. It was just unheard of. And that's what I saw happen in the 60s. All of that free love and throwing away bras and social experiments on all different kind of ways to have relationships. It's like now when people will ask me about things like polygamy. I'm not anti-polygamy. If you're from a culture that people have the psychological socialization to be able to do that, and women run that anyway. James Small speaks on that beautifully. He talks about polygamy was feminine. Women did that. The men didn't do it. The women did it. It was the women who chose who could come into the family, but that's another topic. But we lost so very much in the 60s. We threw away everything. We threw away, when we stopped straightening our hair, it created a cultural schism. And one of the things that I've admired about you over the years is that it's been very interesting to watch you maintain a connection to that while you were running Ife Tayo. It was really, I remember the first time we were in a business space together. And it was the iconic anniversary at Brooklyn Museum. And the meeting was someplace downtown, and I had volunteered to do some proposal work. Yeah. And I remember walking into the meeting, and I was just so struck. I'm always struck by how you're dressed, Kwayera. Because I'm like, everybody got on cultural clothes, and here Kwayera just like designer jam.
I wear cultural designer clothes sometimes.
Well, you throw some kente cloth over your shoulder. I mean, but it was definitely nuanced. But what it was uniquely you. And I think that's the takeaway I want to leave with both men and women that are listening. Have faith
Mm-hmm.
in yourself. You're
Right.
phenomenal. Do you?
Right.
Do
So,
you?
the do you is inspiring me because I can think about like what's our footprint, right? What can I even leave everyone with? And look at what I've inspired. And that's by looking at the young sisters I say that may have started with me when they're 6 and now they're in their 30s because I started in 1989 with Ife Tayo, resigned after 25 years, and now it's year 35 in 2024. So those little girls and boys are they're parents, they're big people. And I look at the ones that were really connected to me and had a lot of connection to my hands, right? And they are themselves. They have the confidence. One thing is they're extremely comfortable with their femininity. That's one thing. For the most part, they don't shy away from it. They're in leadership positions and they don't feel they have to dilute that to be in a leader to lead with this really overwhelming hard shell. Right,
Right.
right. They don't. You're muted, Diana. Go ahead. Yeah, the hard shell. There's a sweetness with them, but they all are bold in their personal creative identity, and that's just inspiring in and of itself. Whatever it is, and I'm continuing to find that. And something else you said earlier, you were saying about men and women. I think my mother always used to say, you get more bees with honey, right? She's like, I don't know why everybody going around saying, give me this, do that. It's like, it's basic. And you can't get simpler than that. If you're kind and you're generous and you're compassionate and you see people, can you always be like that? Heck no, you can't. That's why you have to do your own breath work. You have to transmute, transform, and transcend and then come back outside and be generous and overflow, right? It's not always possible, but that's what we're reaching for. And Diana keeps talking about the breath work, regulating, right? Responding, not reacting. And like recently, I have had some of the most difficult situations where I may have reacted. And simultaneously, I had some really amazing, difficult experiences where I responded. But I don't run away from the react situations because I want to be in that essence, that energy. And for me, that's really being like water. Sometimes you have to be a tsunami. I get that. But a lot of times I'd like to just be a gentle waterfall. And so when you asked about the retreat with Tyoma,
Temper.
I have,
It'll temper. It'll balance itself out. The thing
right,
is to make it a part of how you operate. If you
right.
if you if you do the breath work, if you learn to regulate, if you slow down to your own cadence, then you don't try not to react. You just use the breath to process that reaction. And over time you simply become more responsive and more magnetic and less reactionary. Kwayera, tell me about the workshops you've been working on. And I'm
So, mhm.
name of your organization, but I haven't seen any contact information.
Okay.
Oh, here it is, the
So
website. Okay.
that's one website, right? So I do a couple of different things because um, I work with leaders, women, communities, and institutions. And the reason I'll tell you about the organizations and the companies, but it's really important for me to look into my destiny work, right? I'm 59. I'm thinking about what am I here to do all the time, right? So reaching back 7 generations, pulling forward as many lessons and information, and trying to plan 7 generations out and seeing what I can. Some people say 2, 3. I'm like looking 7 and 7. Why? It's just some research on it, but also it's what my spirit is really connected to. So with that, institution building is huge for me, and learning throughout the globe with indigenous communities or communities that pull on indigenous tenants, right? Because I think all the magic is hidden in there. That's number one. Number two, around communities, that's what holds up institutions, right? Not just, and institutions is where we can gather, right? So you have communities, but what's the anchor that's holding those groups of families and individuals together that bolster them, which has been completely, I think, dissected and destroyed throughout our communities globally. And for the individuals, so the leaders and women. So two different types of retreats and workshops and plans that I do. One is what we did in Jamaica, we do every year, and it's called Soulful Joy. We really are trying to inspire people to find their soulful joy, like what is soulful and why joy. And so we take people on 5 days to the coast of Jamaica where they don't have to think about anything. They get massages. So this body work that Diana is constantly talking about. So we looked at ways that can begin to take off the layers relatively quickly. And one is getting massaged every day for at least 4 days, full deep massage for like 90 minutes, getting reflexology every day for like a half hour to 45 minutes, waking up, doing breath work, going in the seawater, doing all kinds of other activities, and then sitting down individually with healing practitioners like Tyoma, who's a nurse midwife, a homeopath, and an herbalist. And you have an hour and a half individually with someone like Tyoma, someone like a flower essence person, and someone who's a physical person, and then someone who's a transformation specialist. So we really say, okay, you're going to go deep. You have time to focus on yourself, but to also begin to think about sustainable healing. But you got to scaffold, you got to unlayer a lot of stuff. You have to unpack. And so we do that. There's another one I do called Her Iwa Pele. And that is really small, no more than 5 women. And her is put in front of Iwa Pele, which is a Yoruba word, 2 Yoruba words put together that mean gentle character. And the reason I chose that, because again, it was for women who are doing a lot, and to lean into the gentility of who we are is completely opposite from what society is inspiring right now. And so I said I would take a risk, and that is, at times it is a risk, because people say, well, why do you think I need to be gentle as a woman? Look, the story of Oshun, she was a peacock, right? And she had to take a message to Creator. By the time she got to Creator, she was a vulture. I'm not saying we don't have the multiple levels of all of that inside of us, right? But we don't need to always display that. And we need to have a scientific understanding of those energies. And then the last one I do is just for families, right? Coming together, and whatever your family looks like, or whoever you consider your family. And they're all immersed in wilderness, in nature, and incorporating indigenous practices. So those are the retreats I do besides my other community and institution work.
Wow.
Website, will they be able to get specifics
Yeah.
on how to be involved in those workshops?
Absolutely. One is soulfuljoy.com, and that happens once or twice a year. The other one is
I love the way
Kwayera.
your patois came in when you started talking about Jamaica.
Oh my God,
It
Diana, I love
wasn't
it.
there before, and it was
I
like,
know.
yes. And I have definitely been in, for the audience. I have definitely been in Ruby modality. I have an archetype within me called Ruby, and Ruby expresses my warrior self, but she is also an aspect of my colored woman. It came up. So, but I love the way your patois came in there when you so continue. When does Soulful
Right.
Joy come up?
It usually comes up in January, the first weekend of the year, to kickstart your year. So that's soulfuljoy.com. And then there's, and it's small. We don't ever take more than 10 people. I try to really focus. I'm not trying to do the, conglomerate thing. I really want to have a strong touch point with everyone. And the people who work with me are amazingly phenomenal souls. The other one is just Kwayera.com. And that's where you'll find her Iwa Pele and the other retreats I do around the world for women, and private dinner rooms I do for women as well through that, which we'll find out about later. But that's the women's retreat. And the other one, as you had up, was Global Ashe, is the work I do in community. And as you know, I'm doing this project with the Oshun River and Community and Festival in Nigeria, and we're bringing people with us to Nigeria this year in August. So that one is that was a little harder to spell, and that's Ladekoju dot foundation, LADEKOJU dot foundation, and that's the indigenous community I'm working with the senior high priestess there in the area where I was just made a chief. And that's just amazing. Anyone who comes to that will be at the forefront of indigenous practices, healing, and culture.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Well, this was exactly what I wanted it to be. Then we could go a little nuanced, and because
yeah,
it's an oversimplification. I know. I need to say this. It's an oversimplification that it is just about the making, the lovingness, because it doesn't really say it. It has to do with the ability to be present with the reality of what a relationship is. Relationships are biochemical events.
Yeah.
And whatever is happening when you come in the presence of any other human being, how we move energy within that context, within that space that's happening in the moment with that person, it is there that we make that connection. And when you are able to make that connection, because people, and this really goes on both sides with a man or a woman, because people are such in a state of longing for intimacy and connection.
Yeah.
And when we can step out of the script of rumination in our own minds and come into the present moment with another person and really allow yourself to connect with them and let your vertical mind come in and dance with that person, when you have that experience with another human being, not just within the context of courtship or someone that you might be interested in, but in your interactions with human beings in general.
That is it right there. I think that is another whole conversation, because that's the doorway to that relationship piece. It's like I'm trying to find words as you're speaking, and it's a wordless conversation. Like you said, it's that energy, right? What allows men to really be seen? So we've used some words, but it's an essence, it's an energy, and they feel safe, right? It's not a competition, no matter how amazingly phenomenal you are. If you're vibrating if you're attracting people vibrating at the same level that you're vibrating at. And I think that's where we need to be honest, and we need to really face our addictions, like just attention versus, am I going to really do the work on myself and then step into a reality where I attract that abundance and that love and the openness that I'm ready to give.
To do that, because one of the things I know is that someone can understand that. It's like one of the things that I have taught, that I have been preaching, that I've been repeating for decades, is the overuse of trying to talk someone into intimacy, whoever they are. If it's your mama that you're trying to resolve, your child, and particularly if you're a woman, to connect with the flow within nature and that you live that way within the flow of your own energy. Because when you do that, that part of you that is you truly does become sacred, and you react less. You're not triggered so easy. Where something comes out there, and your womanness will go like kind of like.
Diana, we enter humans a lot of times, and I'm just going to talk about women, we all do it, enter relationships with our pain body, right? We say, oh, this is my trauma, what's yours? And we bond around that pain and trauma. How about like entering those experiences without just starting with your, oh, this person hurt me, this happened, because that's the basis of, that's your foundation now. Say you're muted. I can't hear you, Diana. Say that again.
That's relationship poison. That's like you have on a t-shirt that says man off. I'm in full blown Ruby. So let me check her. But
yes.
Men, even though women don't know this, men are looking for the woman to play the lead. How you show up, because men read women very well. And if you show up woman-splaining, intellectualizing, and you're unable to be present and allow the relationship to unfold before you start to bring your history and what you believe and who you are and what you should think and your plan for life, and before you bring that into play. Because men interpret that, or what they report to me, as selfishness. And the women are not selfish. It's not selfish. It's just that they have a cultural orientation that this is what you do. This is how you get to know someone. It's not how you get to know someone. You get to know someone by being with that person. And that has to include a curiosity also about who they are. And how that interacts with who you are. One of the feedbacks I get from men is that women aren't interested in who they are. They have a script that they feel like the man should follow. And men never explain to women why they're dissatisfied. And this is, as I hear myself say this, a gazillion exceptions to this comes up. Because there's so many other things that are happening. There are a lot of damaged people in the culture. There's systemic psychological abuse and manipulation being played. There are all types of things. I'm talking about reasonably balanced people that have the potential to be with another human being. Everybody does not. We live in a highly triggering environment where people are constantly being triggered. The human psyche has a strong predisposition to be hacked and believe in some nonsense. And there's so many vehicles, there's so many cults going on right now in the environment where people are deliberately putting out a message. I think Trump followers are an excellent example of that, where you have people that have been psychologically hacked by someone that understands them, and now they're blindly following that ideology no matter what it does. They believe in it. But there are all types of hacks, because a population that's not connected to themselves, that doesn't know how to regulate so they get acquainted with who they really are, they're vulnerable for something else to establish in that space where their devotion to spirit should be. It's very easily done. And now there's so many vehicles that people have. There's so much influencing. There's so many things that people have to do that. And we don't have the cultural center in the community to purify and neutralize. Have you considered training others to do, because the small group is where it's at. in terms of healing. But populace needs healing. Are you going to train other healers to do the workshops that you do?
So am I am training leaders to be compassionate leaders, to be mindful leaders, to be intuitive leaders, which is healing leaders, and which is connective and collaborative leaders. You can't be a compassionate, intuitive, collaborative leader if you're not connected to people and really leading together. That's the secret, but we'll leave that to the side. It's not the leader out in front, even though the word leader kind of makes us think that. So in terms of healing others, that the that work will probably be done through her Iwa Pele, which is interesting and very intuitive of you as usual, that I just started writing about that last night, shaping some of the spiritual indigenous healing work for women, because Oshun is so connected to me, because I'm rooted in indigenous culture. And it's so funny, I am a bit of what could be considered at times a contradiction, because you can't look at me. Diana talked about how I dress at times, and it's like, wait a minute, is she rooted in indigenous culture? She's a wild woman. She's a woman that runs with the wolves. Yeah, I'm all of that, right? And so how do we share that information? And for me, it has all been about the sisterhood, right? Those sacred, safe spaces that let me unlayer and teach me things like Fayette and Akila did when I was 24 years old, 25 years old. And they said, look, this is how you be married. And I was like, huh? That's a little much for my ears. And they were like, this is how you do it. And I mean, to have sisters like that, and my mother was already like that. My mother worked even with the young girls at Ife Tayo, and they still tell stories about her. But to train that way, yeah, small groups, women who are stepping into their power and understanding the responsibility that comes with uh, stepping into that pathway, right? Because once, and let's just talk about for 1 second, men and women. Once you have that understanding and are able to open that door, what comes with it and what kind of care you have to hold with it. It's no more fighting against our men. It doesn't exist anymore. You do also become a healer. You're not trying to be the savior and save everybody. It becomes synergistic. And if you have that understanding of how to open that ecosystem, that one-on-one ecosystem that actually overflows and begins to inspire everyone around you, then whew, boy, oh boy.
And that starts in the present moment, that you can enter into that with anybody at any time, no matter what the history is. You know, that it appears that, you know, that the popular culture is more psychologically orientated, that you need to understand the narrative of a human being to be able to connect with them. And I think one of the things that is relationship suicide for a lot of women is their need to overtalk their relationships and not understand and not really harnessing the power of being present, and not realizing that the alchemy of a relationship is, if you have phenomenal chemistry with a person, if the alchemy brought you together, what that person says is you talking. As you're listening to that person and connecting with them, it's the voice of the both of you. It's not just the other person's voice. And that is, if it's your mother, whoever it is. And that presence in that moment, the energy of that moment is nourished. The fertile ground that allows that to occur is silence, is space. It is not the more we explain, the more duality we create. You know, there's a context, but it is, you know, there's something that I so want to, but I can't, I can't talk about, there are instances that I can't share because they have to do with other people. But when you're in the flow of your own energy, you have to be in the flow of your own energy before someone else can connect with you. That's why emotional regulation. If you're in the flow of your own energy, because at the center of your own being is the center of the other's being. They're one and the same. You connect. The only way you can truly connect with another person is through connecting to yourself. No matter how intellectually satiating a conversation could be, it's not intimacy. And it's intimacy that we long for. And that extends from our being connected to ourselves. And then the mind, the thinking goes out the way. And then we know what to do. It's being in that flow state with another. And not just somebody you're in a relationship with. When you're in the flow, that is a biochemical event. You're in the gamma wave. You are out the way. You're just moving. As a man or a woman, that is the magic. Where you keep the flow moving in the world. If you're in the wherever you are, that you start your day by you connect with that energy and you move with it. And if you have that, I walk down the street and I see young men walking towards me, ready to say something. And then when they get close to me, they go like, oh my God, she's an old lady. And I'm like, good morning, darling. Good morning, darling. How much, when you walk in that frequency, how much the world rises up to greet you. And it's accessible. And then from that center, your life will expand outward from that place. The relationship will expand outward from that place. And you'll have plenty of opportunity to share your past, your history, whatever you want to share. But it has to start from connection. It has to start from there. And the only way you can do that is to first connect with yourself. So I encourage people, whether you read a book on it, whether Tim Fletcher's work is great. Tune into Kwayera's work. People who do this work, people who do somatic healing, we are just at the point where hopefully we will be doing it in Alchemy Group, because the problems that people have with money is they're not having a connection to themselves. When you show up, when you show up and you're unable, when you show up for anything and you're divided within yourself, that creates an energy around you that it makes it more difficult for people to connect with you. That's why the same energy that rules Libra rules Taurus, rules the finances. So that connection, the breath, emotional centeredness to become truly, truly, truly yourself. The other point that I wanted to make about relationships is dishonesty in any type of relationship. Lying is a form of sorcery, and it's low-grade sorcery. Mm-hmm. People that are higher grade sorcerers, they've connected with a social milieu that's more casting spells on the largest scale in the world. They're doing crowd control. But when you are dishonest, when you're showing up dishonest, trying to make impression, trying to prove who you are, oh, mercy, Jesus, you connect with that energy. in the higher planes, and it resonates with your environment, and it works against you. It works against you, so it's because people want to put this mask forward within the context of any type of relationship, business, personal, with the cashier.
Yeah.
It builds up a block around you, a wall around you where life cannot get through.
And you're going to vibrate that to you. So you'll be lied to, and then you're lying too. So that's number one, Diana. So thank you for that, because that is the root for me, that integrity. You've muted again. Your finger keep touching.
That's what we're going to do. Don't do that to you. And what it is, that's such a need for self-compassion there.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we're pretending to be something that we're not, fundamentally what we're saying is that I don't believe that the power is within me. I have to pretend to be something else. I have to front. I am not worthy of love. I'm not worthy of, you're sending out that message. And I see a great deal of that also. And I see wonderful people suffering, and it extends from, at some point in time, something said to you that you're not enough. And I want to say in this moment that whoever you are, if you're in the sound of my voice, we are all enough, because we're all connected. We're all connected to that source and to that power. Well, Miss Kwayera Archwr, this was divine.
It was. There's a really important question in the chat that says, is it possible to heal your inner child emotional wounds while in a relationship, or should we do it before?
That is an excellent question. Do you want to respond to that?
You go, and I'll do a little bit after, and I know we have to go. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, you can. The thing is that we're all, for one thing, we're constantly in a state of relationship. We're living and breathing the space that's happening around us. Whether or not your day is flowing or whether or not you're getting resistance is your relationship to life. Space is not empty. So your ability to be able to be centered and connected with yourself within the context of relationship changes how you interact with that relationship. I've had, many visionaries, and probably a lot of people that are listening to this, you're the different drummer in your family. And people that are the different drummer can spend a lot of time trying to get the other people to understand their experience of life. And we're ignoring the opportunity to heal that is in the present moment. And that's the crux of the answer to that question. If you're constantly in a relationship, you're in a relationship with the people in the store, you're in a relationship with the people you work with, you're in a relationship with your family, you're in a relationship with yourself if you don't leave your apartment. Is your day going well within your own home? Through connecting to yourself, that master key, connecting to yourself, breathing into calm. First, breathe. Begin to move at your own cadence, that space, that's the second movement, and making choices that are true to yourself, being authentic through your actions, not through putting the burden of fixing you on someone understanding you, putting them through a lobotomy. They're going to change and act towards you the way you would like them to be. Not a good approach. Mm-hmm. If you can be you, if you've been talking a lot, stop talking. The main thing is all you have to do is follow the advice on the emotional regulation, come to group. If you're in a relationship that's not working, if you just stop talking, and allow yourself to be present, within the moment with that person, whoever they are, and respond genuinely, your vertical consciousness begins to come in, and then you can dance. You'll relate to them. I give you an example. You fight all the time with your sister. You're out of town. This is an actual thing. You have a sister that y'all don't get along that well. Y'all are different drummers. This is, and I'm not going to get too much in the Kool-Aid, and you're out of town, you're at her home. And you go shopping, you go grocery shopping together, and she's got her list. And you're like, can I get something? You're helping her shop. You get you get home, you're unloading the groceries. There's a flow in that moment of you being able to do that task together, to be able to be together. You've got to get to that place with whoever it is that you can be with yourself while you're with someone else. That's ground zero. To be able to be with another human being. All of that talking and explaining creates duality and separation.
Diana, we gotta prepare
else.
We gotta prepare to wrap up the show. Kwayera, it's an honor to have you on the platform. I would like for you, before we close out, to give the audience to share your future dreams, being that you hit that magical 6-0, looking like you 2-0.
No.
So without further ado, I want you to cast the dream that you perceive in your future, your visions, and in that context.
Wow. Well, I'm 50. I keep saying I'm 60, but I'm 58. I'll be 59 in May, which means next year, 2025, I'll be 60. But I'm so happy to get to 60. I'm telling everybody next year, even though I'm 58, I'm almost 59. Who says that, right? So, but it's because I'm so grateful to have breath and ability. And so with that, my vision for the future is to love as much as I can, as courageously as I can, personally, right, with people, forgive as quickly as I can in those familial, really close relationships that are still complex, learning to forgive so that I can love even bigger, and then really work to inspire and empower individuals and communities, and just really leave, I would say, technologies in place that I co-create with people that can heal for generations. That's what I'm here to do. I want to do that, whether it's through institutions, whether it's through partnerships, whether it's through loves, whether I just want to leave a footprint that is going to expand love and healing.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I want to thank you, Diana, for putting together such a beautiful, insightful show. And before we close out, I just want to share this video because we do have another show coming up behind this one. So pre-happy birthday, Kwayera. Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Angels of Diana. And most of all, thank you, the listening audience.
To paradise.